bringing people together. And the Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Sabrina Daly.
And I'm Shyne Barrow. Good morning.
And good morning,
Good morning, Sabrina.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Given the circumstances, I'm okay.
I know,
I can't complain. I'm good. I'm here, live and in the flesh.
We are here live and in the flesh. It is a bit gloomy on this Tuesday morning, but nonetheless, we are happy to be here with you guys, starting your morning right wherever you are, whether you're at home or you're already at work, starting with us. We're grateful for you tuning in with us, and as we mentioned, starting your morning right. We have quite a few topics to jump into this morning, Isani, so we want to jump straight into what's buzzing. All right. Starting off, I know that everyone was glued to their devices during the day yesterday, Isani, but as well as last night for the newscast, where what made headlines really was just another fiasco within the United Democratic Party. You would know that we had our News 5 team stationed at Youth for the Future Drive at the UDP headquarters, where it was announced through the grapevine that a takeover of sorts would have been taking place from the Alliance for Democracy. And of course, we were able to be stationed there for quite a few hours. I feel like we were there for at least up to like 5 hours throughout the day, just gathering the sights and sounds, getting interviews from the interim leader, the Honorable Tracy Panton, and several other representatives of the Alliance for Democracy, saying that they are taking essentially what is rightfully theirs after the Unity Convention that was held just roughly a week and some days ago.
Okay, so in politics, and I hate to start off using a big word, but it's the word that aptly describes what's taking place. It's called a defenestration, right? This is where the leader of the party is essentially tossed out by a group from within the party itself. So essentially what we are witnessing, and this is historic for all intents and purposes, is the defenestration of Shyne Barrow as the leader of the United Democratic Party. Now, I know that he's been using a descriptive that may not necessarily be suitable for what is taking place. I know he's mentioned that the Alliance for Democracy have failed at an attempt of a coup d'etat. This is not a coup d'etat. There is no violence taking place here. Essentially what it is called is a palace coup, where, you know, persons from within, in this case, these are elected officials. When you look at Tracy Panton and Patrick Faber, right? They were the ones who are pretty much the architects of this palace coup. And so what we saw yesterday was them taking office in its literal sense. As you've mentioned, a week and a few days, well, a week and a day actually, following the October 20th Unity Convention. Now, this was foreshadowed. I wasn't here last week, but I've been following closely these developments, and this was foreshadowed simply because in last week, there was this big hullabaloo with Yellow in front of the headquarters where he mentioned, look, we're giving you a couple days and then we're coming, right? So the writings were on the wall, in a manner of speaking. So this did not surprise me yesterday. What surprised me was the position taken by certain members of Shyne's support group, including Ian Jones, right? That one was kind of, you know, that took me personally by surprise. But to see that in this particular case, Philippa Griffith Bailey, the trustee, essentially gave a stamp of approval for the use of the facility to Tracy Panton as the
leader.
leader. Again, this is for all intents and purposes, because that's still debatable depending on who you speak with, right? But essentially, Ms. Bailey said, here are the keys. You have full access to the facility. Now, we haven't heard from Shyne Barrow or the chairman from his side of the UDP. We haven't heard from them in terms of this latest development that took place yesterday. But this is historic.
It is.
I don't know that we saw this coming a mile away a year ago. I say a year ago because that's when Mr. Barrow essentially had the support of the Caucus for Change and all of these other UDP politicians who sided with him to become the leader. Mm-hmm. And 1 year later, he's been overthrown and unseated.
One of the things that stood out to me, of course, there were several interviews that were done yesterday at the UDP headquarters. Of course, we had our colleague Marian stationed there. She spoke to Edmund Castro. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions that she posed to him was, is this the worst that you've ever seen the UDP? And he essentially said that, there's been a lot that has gone down in the UDP.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm intrigued to hear.
But it's the first time something like this is happening.
Yeah, right? And for me, I'm intrigued to hear that this is essentially, would you describe Isani as the worst that you've ever seen in your career as a journalist observing politics?
Certainly. But if one were to take a critical look at what's taking place here, there's two sides to every story, right? There's your side and my side, mm-hmm. and that of the viewer or the person who's standing by watching what's taking place. I say all of that to say this. This is the example that I've used. If you are in a situation, either as an employer or as a head of household, for instance, right? And you realize that in your relationship with your spouse and the kids, that something is awry, something is not right. And you realize that in that interaction, the kids are siding with the wife. In the case of a man being the head of household, the kids are siding with the wife, and they're saying essentially, you know what? You can't stay here anymore. The situation is untenable. It's toxic. It affects my mental health. You're damaging mom emotionally and what have you, mm-hmm. right? And you hear that repeatedly. It's a sign that, in a sense, you have to move on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you've taken these quote-unquote sacred vows that says you need to be there to try to work through your issue, then that's the other side of the coin. So from an employer's perspective, if you've hired a group of people who no longer support you in terms of your leadership or what have you, perhaps it's also a sign for you to say, you know what, I can't work with this team, let me step down and have someone else be the head of the organization or company or what have you. Those are parallels that I personally draw in terms of what I see happening here. When you have the masses of the party saying, look, we no longer care for you as the leader, why fight it? That's just how I look at it personally. But he's duly elected as well, so that's the other side of it.
And that's what I was going to get to it. I think one of the questions that a lot of people are asking is, one, the legality of the takeover. Of course, as you mentioned, Isani, the Honorable Tracy Panton shared with us that she has given the official authorization from the trustee, Philippa Bailey. They also mentioned that that document was signed by a justice of the peace. But I also know that we had an interview with the Commissioner of Police who mentioned that.
I'm glad that you've mentioned that, because the example that he's using in terms of an eviction, now I have a couple of friends of mine who are lawyers, and automatically when the Compol pronounced on this matter using the example of the eviction, people started looking at it and said, it's not necessarily an eviction. They're not kicking Shyne Barrow out. They're simply saying that they need access to the building, right? And they're not saying that he cannot access the building either. They're essentially saying, look, not in the capacity that you're
in currently.
Yeah. Right? So
and
that
we even
becomes the
had
argument.
Tracy Panton saying that on record.
That becomes the argument. So it's not a matter of an eviction and giving him a month's notice. He's not occupying it as that kind of a tenant. Now, again, I'm no lawyer, but that was some of the opinions that was being shared around in the wake of the Compulse comment yesterday.
My question is this, though. What will the Belize Police Department represent in this ordeal? Because, as you mentioned, it was not violent yesterday, so to speak. We did see a little bit of a scuffle between one person, but that wasn't really much to talk about.
And that's why we're saying it's a palace coup and not necessarily a coup d'etat.
So what can they do at this point? Because we did hear the commissioner saying that...
Keep the peace. First and foremost, that's their charge.
But we did hear the commissioner saying, look, our hands are tied until this becomes a court ordeal.
Yeah. And this is what I've been saying for a while. I guess the last time I sat on the court, I said, well, why hasn't this matter gone before the court for some form of a determination, right? And so this is I wouldn't say the end result of it, because this is still very much developing. We don't know where this will go in the next few hours or the next few days.
As far as we know, they were there until last night.
Yeah, and they still hadn't gained entry to that part of the building where the party leader's office is situated, and the actual hall where these meetings are held.
And we do know that the Honorable Tracy Panton also issued a press release late yesterday, sharing multiple information on what was essentially taking place throughout the day, but also what the delegates can expect. It goes as far as your duly elected leader, it is my responsibility to ensure that our party resources, including our headquarters, are accessible to those working tirelessly to strengthen and unify the UDP. Despite Honorable Barrow's actions, including changing the locks and placing security personnel at the headquarters, I was granted full access to the building by the property trustee, of course, as we just mentioned. And Isani, one of the things that we also heard from Ms. Panton, which she ensured that she mentioned repeatedly, is that this was not a break-in. They were given access and they simply just walked in after given access. Of course, there are differing views. We know Ian Jones said, nope, that's not what happened.
Okay, and so Cecil Jenkins refuted that as well. But that's not how I'm looking at it, right? Again, I'm relying on, to an extent, legal opinions shared in the wake of what took place.
Right.
So even if the commissioner was saying, well, let's look at it from the point of view of a burglary, right? Another opinion suggests, well, breaking into your own house to gain entry may not necessarily amount to burglary. If, for instance, you forgot your keys or what have you, and you're kicking down your door to get in, and if officers walk past or drive past or whatever, are you really burglarizing? But that's another argument.
Yes.
I'm saying all of this because it's a matter of opinion and perspective, right? But there has been no, in my opinion, no move to see how best this thing can be resolved either through the courts or with cooler heads. Now, obviously, cooler heads aren't prevailing in this case because they're headstrong in terms of the positions that they hold. One, Ms. Panton is saying, look, I have been elected as party leader in this convention last week. That was overwhelming in its turnout and its support. And Mr. Barrow is saying, no, look, we agreed last year that I won't be challenged as the leader of the opposition, as the party leader of the UDP until after the next general elections. And so that's where they're bucking heads. And everything that we're seeing is part of that fallout.
Yeah, well, there's a lot on the leader of the opposition's plate at this time.
I'll segue, yes.
Into another topic still involving Shyne Barrow. As you know, Isani, we would have mentioned a few days ago, I believe last week, that we are also highly anticipating a documentary film set to be released on November 18th, which would essentially speak about the life of Shyne from his involvement in the entertainment industry now to politics. But there's a lot more to consider along with that.
So let's move away from the political aspect of everything that Shyne Barrow is entangled with. I was in New York over the weekend, and so there was all this chatter about one well-known, very influential radio personality. I'm not sure how many people would know who Funkmaster Flex is. He's one of the kings of radio in the New York area. So he took to Hot 97 during his his time on air, and he pretty much went after Shyne Barrow ruthlessly.
Yeah.
And some of what Funkmaster Flex mentioned, well, I can't repeat because of his use of language, right? But it forced me to really think and look at some of the scenarios at play here. Here's a man who, in our media, which was taken from here and it made international headlines elsewhere, but here's a man who, in our media, said, look, did they ruin my life? ABC, all of that is on the record. But then you look at Shyne Barrow coming out at the BET Awards with Diddy and the Belizean flag is draped. You looked at him receiving the keys to the city of New York and Shyne was there. So if this man ruined your life, then what were you doing next to him, ponying up to him in a manner of speaking?
Yeah.
Right? If he ruined your life, how is he part of the campaign financing if you've admitted that he would have, assisted financially towards your campaign efforts and what have you? So it's contradictory. Yeah. Right?
So now that you mentioned that, it actually crossed my mind because I believe it was last week, a well-known social media influencer, I believe it's a Belizean that lives in the diaspora, went live to talk about some of the political ordeals between the United Democratic Party. And we actually saw Shyne jump on that live to kind of give his view of what's taking place. They did ask him about the whole Diddy situation of it all. And he mentioned that, regardless of what this person did to me, me essentially being around him after that was an opportunity to try to give to Belizeans. Of course, I don't know where the truth is in all of that, but I'm glad that you pointed that out because I heard an even differing view from Shyne again on another live.
But it's safe to say, and I guess at this point it's without a doubt, that Shyne Barrow has been one of the most polemic and controversial figures in our political history in our time.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's because he's still very much a novice in party politics and electoral politics. This is his first go around and all of this controversy is at play.
One of the questions that a lot of people are asking is what, of course, the former Prime Minister of Belize, the Right Honorable Dean Barrow, thinks of this entire situation. He had a legacy tied to his name, being the first Black Prime Minister here in Belize. Of course, his son...
The first three-time Prime Minister as well.
His son hoping to continue the legacy and the name Barrow. I wonder what his thoughts are.
I'm certain, sir, that he has his opinion and his position, none that he cares to share publicly.
For sure.
Naturally, I reached out to attempt an interview with him and he respectfully declined. But obviously, anyone at this point, particularly those who are closest to the situation, would have a position on how they feel as to what's unfolding.
Well, as you know, Asani, we continue to follow the developments. I know that there will be much more to cover. And of course, we will try to provide you the sights and sounds as they come about. Moving now into our third topic of discussion, also equally as interesting in the news last night, was the very short-lived presence of Erwin Contreras attending the hearing of the Senate Special Select Committee. Now, there were several things that really surprised us, of course, how quickly he entered and left, but also his appearance as well, Asani.
Okay, so let's go back again for context, right? To be able to preface the discussion properly. The week before, we saw the appearances of the Cabinet Secretary and we saw the appearance of the Junior Minister of State. And both individuals, accompanied by their attorney, Senior Counsel Amon Courtney, read prepared statements and walked out. And in Senator Koye's statement, he did mention until Erwin Contreras is brought before the Senate, all of this basically amounts to naught. So that's for me where this part of it begins. And that's because there were several previous attempts made to get Mr. Contreras before the panel. Those attempts were futile. This time around, however, he appeared based on a warrant. And again, I was on my way back into the country when I get this tip. look, something is going down. Mr. Contreras has been picked up and taken over to the Carl Thompson building. Now, the Carl Thompson building is essentially the headquarters of the national security apparatus, right? So I am made to understand that that's what happened initially before he was dragged over to the George Price Center where the Senate inquiry was being held. And to your statement earlier, the appearance. So you could understand perhaps if you're at home, you're in your nightgown for argument's sake, and the police show up at your door and say, Sabrina, you have to go. There's an investigation and you're part of this investigation. We're asking you to come with us.
Right.
You're not necessarily being given that time to doll up and put on everything. You have to go as is, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking that's part of what happened here. And then based on his appearance, they tried to, okay, let's find clothing that would be suitable
So they
for
brought
him to appear
him
before us.
a pair of pants.
And all of that was a fiasco, if you ask me. That was a whole nother laughing stock.
Yeah.
Right? Unfortunate as it may have been for him. But the long and short of this, again, this is from what I've been made to understand, is that earlier this year, when they were attempting to get him before the inquiry, they explicitly stated by way of an affidavit, look, this matter is live before the High Court and I am involved in this case. So I wouldn't essentially be able to appear for the Senate inquiry if the details of what I'll be arguing will be aired out or ventilated in the court.
Yeah.
So this was a position. So
which is a legitimate position.
It's fairly legit, right? So to see this unfold the way in which it did yesterday, it begs the question, and I keep wondering to myself, how effective is this exercise at this point? Aside from the circus of it all, how effective has this inquiry been? And it harkens back to what Senior Counsel Courtney mentioned 2 weeks or so ago, where he's saying, look, it's time for us to bring this thing to an end.
Yeah.
I don't know that there has been anything substantial or meaningful coming out of it.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's sort of the question that looms over this entire exercise.
I mean, one of the things to point out as well is how costly holding
a venture it is. Yes.
An inquiry like this is. As you mentioned, this has been something long in the making and also quite extensively held as well. Of course, as you mentioned, the former Minister of Economic Development did mention that he would not be essentially sharing anything because of the matter being still before the live court, the High Court, and how it could potentially come against his court case with Lord Ashcroft. So the question is, what happens now? Does this wrap up? Do we wait until that matter is resolved?
God knows. I don't know where this is going to go. Wow. It's for the committee to come forward and say it's either concluded or we still have several sessions more to go. I don't know. My guess is as good as yours, vice versa.
All right. Well, our last topic of discussion then, Isani, is your welcomed return. We did miss you last week.
I like how you say it, but yeah. Didn't feel like I went anywhere. I was so glued to everything that was happening here.
I know, but he was definitely far away, still ensuring that he was in tune to what's taking place here. You were really on the other side of the world, Isani.
Quite literally.
Let's talk about your trip. You were out on official business.
Yes. So I was able to represent Channel 5 and represent Belize, along with my colleague Louis Wade III, LJ, both as Belizeans and Belizean journalists. We joined our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, and we traveled over to Japan to participate in a cultural exchange initiative held by an organization called APIC in concert with the government of Japan. And this is all to be able to create an awareness of the ongoing relations between Japan and certain parts of the world, including the Pacific Islands and, of course, the Caribbean. And this was quite an eye-opening experience for all of us in that delegation because it was our first time to Japan.
Yeah.
and to be immersed in the culture.
Oh, I see a familiar face there. He was at CBU.
Yes, that's my good friend Livingston White, Dr.
Yes.
Livingston White. Okay, so all of this was for us to gain a better understanding of how the two countries, in this case Belize and Japan, have had this relationship for a number of years and what it means. And so while many of us would reflect on, oh, well, the Japanese are going to build a new swing bridge. That was the latest news a few weeks or so ago. Being on the ground and seeing the interaction and seeing how this partnership comes to fruition and so on is what I'm describing as an eye-opening experience, aside from the entire cultural aspect of it, right? And so for the better part of a week or so, and a week or a few days, we were fully immersed in discussions with the foreign ministry, with ambassadors, from the region, discussing how we can strengthen our bond, both from the perspective of the media being able to share information about Japan, and of course from the perspective of preserving cultural uniqueness within certain parts of the world. All right, so there's a full story that I have to put together in terms of this experience, but yes, it's been quite a journey, no pun intended.
Wonderful. When I saw him this morning, I said, I hope you brought us back some keychains. But it's good to have you here back, Isani. And of course, we will be talking about it further. And of course, getting your story later in our newscast. But that does it for What's Buzzing. If you have any thoughts on either of the conversations, please let us know in the comments section. Moving now into our eye opener for your daily dose of morning motivation, and jumping instead into our weather, because as we mentioned, we are observing a gloomy day outside, so let's see what we can expect.
Good morning, Belize. Moist and somewhat unstable conditions continues to linger over our area. The 24-hour forecast: skies will be mostly cloudy. A few showers, periods of light to moderate rain, or isolated thunderstorms will affect mainly northern and coastal areas this morning, and mostly central and inland areas this afternoon. Then, shower activity will decrease and become isolated this evening, with a chance for a few more mainly along the coast later tonight. The maximum temperatures for today will reach 85 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 86 inland, and 74 up in the hills. The low temperatures for tonight will be around 74 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 72 inland, and 65 up in the hills. The winds will be light and variable, becoming northeasterly at 5 to 10 knots later today, and the sea conditions will be choppy. A high tide will occur this morning at 8:13, a low tide this afternoon at 2:22, another high tide tonight at 8:10, and another low tide early tomorrow morning at 2:54. The sun rose this morning at 5:50 and will set this evening at 5:22. The moon will set this evening at 3:43 and will rise early tomorrow morning at 4:17. The outlook for Wednesday and Wednesday night: skies will be cloudy at times. Showers and thunderstorms will be generally isolated, with a few more occurring over inland areas Wednesday afternoon and mainly over northern and coastal areas Wednesday night. In the tropical weather outlook, tropical cyclone formation is not expected over the North Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea, or the Gulf of Mexico during the next 48 hours. However, a broad area of low pressure is likely to develop over the southwestern Caribbean Sea and has a medium chance of development during the next 7 days. For more details on our forecast products, please visit our website at nms.gov.bz. With that, we end this morning's forecast from the Belize National Met Service.
All right, there you have it, your update from the folks from the Met Service. Moving now into our show lineup, we have a jam-packed show for you this Tuesday morning. Starting off in our first conversation, we'll be joined by the Director of Good Governance Unit under the Ministry of Public Service, Constitutional and Political Reform and Religious Affairs, Cesar Ross, who will be talking to us about Anti-Corruption Month.
Of course, our second conversation will be about heart attack and, of course, its causes.
In our third conversation, it's all about Toyota in Belize.
And our fourth and final conversation this morning, we will be talking about diabetes as we commemorate Diabetes Month.
Wonderful. Well, we got to take our first break, but when we come back, it's all about the Anti-Corruption Month. from a representative from the Good Governance Unit. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
My name is Hermine Vega. El Patio Grill has been using Belize Bank for over 25 years. We only use Belize Bank at our restaurant. That's why we were able to win this trip to Europe. I had never been to Europe. We found out it was Madrid and we were excited and we went to this football match. The teams reached before the game and everybody was just outside, you know. You can't explain, the noise just roared like 3 blocks down the street, but when you got in there and you saw 70,000 people in there, that was amazing. I couldn't believe it was happening. I had to pinch myself to make sure it was real, you know, because it's a one-in-a-lifetime experience, I'd say. My lucky plus one was my son. He's 18 years old, so he was really excited and he enjoyed it as well. He said it's his best trip ever, so it's a priceless experience that we got. Belize Bank has always been there for me. Whatever transactions or whatever I need to do, they're always there for me. I would recommend everybody to use Belize Bank. It's the oldest bank in our country and they continue to do their best.
They'll name you 100 reasons to step back. But when you achieve your goal, they will follow you. Gorilla. Make some noise.
This is what you've been waiting for. In this corner, we have the masters of limitless power and unbeatable connections. Pioneers of 4G LTE in Belize. It's the undefeated champion, Smart. And in the other corner, struggling to keep up, it's the other guy. Fight! Getting blow after blow from a plan with the other guys? It's time to tap out and join the winning postpaid plan provider. Smart's postpaid plans are a total knockout to the competition, and they have once again powered up their postpaid plans. Sign up for one of Smart's boosted postpaid power plans today and experience the victory of superior service. Smart, bringing people together.
Are you a dynamic and charismatic personality with a passion for storytelling? Do you have a unique voice that captivates audiences and a talent for bringing stories to life? We are looking for fresh faces who are energetic, engaging, and natural in front of the camera or microphone. If you are passionate about acting or voice work, we want to see what you've got. To register, email producer@channel5belize.com or call 670-6068.
Welcome back. Joining us for our first conversation this morning is the director of the Good Governance Unit. He is Cesar Ross. Good morning, Mr. Ross.
Good morning.
How's everything going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. The weather has calmed us a little, taken out some of the heat, but everything is going well.
I understand that you guys over at the Good Governance Unit have your plate full in terms of all these responsibilities that you need to carry out as part of your mandate. And we're coming up quickly to Anti-Corruption Month and the celebration of that 4-week period. Before we do, however, I would want first to begin by talking about the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC. I think that sets the foundation in terms of where we'd go in terms of our conversation. Any updates as to where we are as a country in terms of being able to meet or deliver on the various targets under the UNCAC framework?
Yes, okay, sure. Thank you and good morning. And anytime we talk about UNCAC, I also like to plug in MESISIC, which is the OAS Inter-American Convention Against Corruption, which we have been a part of since 1996, long before UNCAC. But yes, we had a review by UNCAC, a country review, in the midst of last year, and we had a review from MESISIC just about 3 weeks ago, right, reviewing the country's preparation. And one of the things that in their executive summary, the UNCAC country reviewers told us was that we are on target with a lot of the treaty obligations when it comes to the legislation that will underpin our ability to hold people feet to the anti-corruption fire as such. No? And so with 2023 and the amendment schedule that was integrated in 2023, there was a lot of amendments that brought, whether it's beneficial ownership and the registration of owners or companies and their accounting procedures and the information that they have to have in country. And we keep being informed, they keep reminding us that for a long time, our commitments to the registration of company allowed them to have it off country or out of Belize. But today, after those amendments, they are obligated to have all information within country. So that's those amendments there in the Financial Services Commission amendment, the Companies Registry amendment, the Accounting Information amendment, but also the Civil Asset Recovery Act that was passed in mid of last year is being onboarded, is being prepared for, and that is one of the things that we will be focusing in this period of our anti-corruption program. What are the local initiatives? What are the local obligations that we are meeting or preparing to commit to? We found out in a couple weeks ago in our presentation to MESISIC that a lot of that the central bank and the Financial Intelligence Unit and the Attorney General's ministry have worked at making sure that bank secrecy can no longer be used as an excuse to deny information of crimes or money laundering and such. No?
I understand these treaties and agreements that are signed by Belize with these organizations to have a commitment to rule out corruption. But what I want to take the conversation to is the active role that the governance unit, the Good Governance Unit, plays in this process. We know these programs and campaigns that will actively come out of this unit, but is there an active role that the unit plays?
Yes, we have been, when the unit was created in early 2022, by cabinet decree of this administration, one of the specific mandates that they put on the Good Governance Unit was that one, we have to be responsible for the onboarding of all our anti-corruption international treaties. So whether it's UNCAC or MESISIC, we have to be the hub that facilitates our obligation to those. And the different articles in the treaty cover many different areas. As a matter of fact, in the UNCAC review, they told us that there's about 22 different other government agencies that are connected in some way or the other to elements of the UNCAC. But at the end of the day, the government has asked the Good Governance Unit to coordinate all of that process as such. But a second mandate, what I consider the primary mandate, is our obligation to Belize.
Yeah.
And our obligation to Belize is to develop the policies, to look at governance across the country, and not only national or central government, but municipal governments, village council governance, even statutory bodies, governance in general in Belize, and by a clear assessment of how governance is operating, create or promote the policies that will be necessary, even if they have to be introduced as laws, that will make sure that governance and the Belize government is much more conducive to rooting out corruption, but more so to introduce good governance practices that are going to assist us with being more responsive to Belizeans.
Now, notwithstanding the work of the Good Governance Unit, and I'm certain that you guys have been diligent in what you're setting out to accomplish, there is still very much the perception amongst Belizeans that corruption is rife across all forms, in public, private, and any other sector perhaps. How do you, and this was in a sense brought out in a recent survey that was conducted by Viking Strategies, where they're saying, look, if you poll these many people, this is how they feel about the notion or the concept of corruption being rampant in our country. How does the Good Governance Unit look at that and try to reshape the narrative, as it were?
Yes, very true. And we have even been using a previous survey that was done some years ago under the auspices of the World Bank. And I, anytime I do outreach and visit different communities or constituencies, like the business community, the union community, the academia, I use that example because when that survey was done, for instance, in a country like Singapore, right, and Southeast Asia, and I know that you came from Japan recently, no? But in that area there, when the people were surveyed, they found out that about 84 to 86% of the population trust what their government are doing, right? Even though the kind of governance that they have, I don't know that Belizeans would be as welcoming because there's a lot of controls, right? I remember in Singapore, the notion that you cannot chew in public. It's illegal to chew, otherwise you can be fined for something like that. No, so but the people trust what the government is doing. They know that it's for the greater good. When that survey was done in our region, the Caribbean and Belize, 34%.
Because we're a skeptical people based on perhaps experiences that we've had in the past where trust has been eroded.
Yep. So that is, I put that out there because that is one of the major challenges that we have, right? Because we're skeptical, because of past events, but that's the battle that we have. And so one of our major tasks is preventive measures in corruption, but also socializing those preventive measures, getting the public to understand their part. And that when we talk about corruption, it's not only looking at the ministers and the parliamentarians, it's at all levels of the public service and all levels of the public. When we try to get favors, when we try to skip the line, when we want a little, hurry job, all of those things there contribute to this
corruption.
culture of corruption. And so it's a cultural dynamic, and it's a cultural change that will take a lot of effort. And so we just have to keep promoting those preventive measures, promoting the socialization of our corruption agenda.
And one of the ways that the unit will be doing that is in the launch of an anti-corruption month campaign. Let's talk about what we will be expecting from you guys.
Okay. It's our second go at it. We did it last year, and we enjoyed the response that we got from the public. So we're at it, and the minister has made it clear, that we have to make this a yearly thing. But it's a program that starts out with launching some contests, right, into the schools, into the public, some essay writing contests, this year we're putting in a TikTok, a 30 to 60 minute video that promotes corruption, or at least brings awareness to corruption in whatever perspective or experience that they have. And then there is the canvas art, which is part of it. So we start with those contests, and we're launching those contests this week into the school system and into the media, both in the traditional media and the new social media areas as such.
So it's essentially raising public awareness on what corruption is, the various forms corruption takes, and what have you. Do you believe that this kind of sensitization effort is the most effective in terms of being able to shape the culture, as you've mentioned earlier?
It's one of the areas. It's one of the areas that we are looking at. There are about 3 different areas that we're focusing on this year. The contest, which will get us into the schools, for instance, last year we had a 9-year-old from St. Joseph's School in Belize do an artwork that the symbolism of it just blew the minds of the unit as such, when she has let us bloom, and then she has a flower, and then she calls out teachers, government officials, parliamentarians, let us bloom. When a child is telling you that, you stop and wonder what have we been doing when we have a corrupt society. So we're launching that again. The essays that are written, I was more excited by the essays that were written by primary schoolers than the high schoolers and such. They brought some attentions and some emotion dynamics into the essays that, it's, at the end of the day, out of the eyes of the children, you learn a lot, no? We're also going to be having outreach with different stakeholders, again, with the private sector, the business community, the media, the academia, the unions. Again, we're going to target sort of update and awareness to corruption, but also an update to our treaty obligations and how we're doing at UNCAC. And then we're going to end, because December 9th is the International Anti-Corruption Day, but because of certain commitments, we're going to have our National Anti-Corruption Conference on the 10th, the following day, which will be a whole day of local initiatives where the Ombudsman updates us as to where he is with the Human Rights Institute that is part of his mandate as such. The FIU will be presenting on where are they with both the civil asset recovery, but also the anti-money laundering program that they are mandated to be responsible for. And then we will have the Contractor General speak about open contracting and procurement, how you're developing policies to make sure that the corrupt part in those processes there are removed, right?
I also know that there was opportunities given to public service workers a few years ago to equip themselves via formal education at Galen University, I believe, or a tertiary level institution, on good governance and anti-corruption. Yes,
Yes.
Is that still ongoing?
That the persons that were trained, the public servants that were trained, are still a relevant part of our anti-corruption program. We call them our good governance ambassadors. They came from all the line ministries. We are evaluating whether all the line ministries are equal, because there have been some movements, some transfers, and so some line ministries have lost their good governance ambassadors. So this year, apart from the anti-corruption program or the anti-corruption month, we have also launched a good governance program, which we are able to do through a U.S. CARSI grant that UNDP and ourselves together worked on got. And in there is a lot of capacity building. And so the good governance and the ethics course that was done with Galen, we're looking at what and how to use them and how to get Galen to help us do sort of a capacity building for whether it's for AOs or for CEOs, for directors in the line ministries. We're also doing one where the Auditor General will be helping us and the Ministry of Finance at financial controls. So all the FOs in the line ministries, and we're hoping that when it was drafted with the FOs in mind, but I want to stretch it to include the directors of finance of the municipal bodies across the country and the directors of finance in the statutory boards or statutory organizations that we have. No?
What interest do the unions play in terms of them being stakeholders in this entire process? I ask because the NTUCB, for instance, has been in the past rather vocal about UNCAC, about the notion of corruption and how pervasive it is in our small Belizean society. What role do they play at this point?
They are still very vocal and still very active in this role. And that's one of the things we have to compliment our union brothers and their involvement. They keep making sure that we are following on it. Every review that is done, whether by UNCAC or MASISIC, we have the union representation and making a case for what issues are paramount, are important to union members as such. And so the president and the country expert, Mr. Enriquez, out of NTUCB, keep touching base and reminding us and keep asking where are we at. Can we get an update for the unions? And so is BNTU, and so is the public service leaders as such. They keep playing an important role in making sure that it's going on and that they keep advocating for the full implementation of UNCAC.
Wonderful. Well, Mr. Ross, this has been such a pleasant conversation. We want to say thank you for joining us and, of course, talking about several projects being carried out within the unit, but also what we can expect for Anti-Corruption Month and the involvement of the public as well. For persons who might be interested in asking further questions, how can they do so?
The best way to do it, we have a good governance at gmail.com, goodgov@gmail.com, but Facebook is even much more faster. We have a good governance unit Belize on Facebook page, and that's the best way to reach us. And to you can even see the conference as it was live streamed, the taping of it from last year. And many events that we have done are on our Facebook page.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we wish you guys all the best.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to take a quick break now, and when we come back, the conversation switches into heart attacks, the causes, and of course, how you can prevent them.
Upcoming enhancements to My Social Security. The new healthcare provider feature seamlessly connects healthcare providers, insured persons, and employers to facilitate the payment of sickness benefits. Here are the enhancements. Registered healthcare providers will create and submit online medical certificates using their healthcare provider accounts. Insured persons will receive a link to view the medical certificate to complete and submit their sickness benefit claim. And employers will receive an email notification of their employee's sickness claim. Also, the insured person and their employer will receive a copy of the claim decision letter after review. Healthcare providers, insured persons, and employers are encouraged to create a portal account to access and benefit from these new services on My Social Security at ssbportal.org.bz. My Social Security online portal. Social Security at your fingertips.
Gentlemen, this is what you've been waiting for. In this corner, we have the masters of limitless power and unbeatable connections. Pioneers of 4G LTE in Belize. It's the undefeated champion, Smart. And in the other corner, struggling to keep up, it's the other guy. Fight! Tired of getting blow after blow from a plan with the other guys? It's time to tap out and join the winning postpaid plan provider. Smart's postpaid plans are a total knockout to the competition, and they have once again powered up their postpaid plans. Sign up for one of Smart's boosted postpaid power plans today and experience the victory of superior service. Smart, bringing people together.
La formación del Centro Neurológico del Hospital Galenia es que esas enfermedades que son altamente complejas y que muchos de nuestros pacientes tenían que emigrar hacia otra parte de la República u otra parte de México, ahora puedan ser atendidos aquí.
La atención quirúrgica en el centro neurológico se forma dentro de un grupo multidisciplinario que incluye tanto neurólogos, médicos internistas, ortopedistas, neurocirujanos, pediatras. Y este esfuerzo que se ha realizado para conjuntar todos los especialistas es para siempre brindar al paciente un abordaje multidisciplinario y transversal.
Evidentemente, mientras más rápido podamos llegar al diagnóstico de los pacientes, más rápido podemos tratarlos, resolverlos y por ende mejor resultado vamos a tener al final. Entonces creo que la prioridad y el fundamento principal de un proyecto como este es justamente eso, que no se pierda tiempo de forma innecesaria para poder al final del día llegar al mejor de los resultados con un tratamiento completo, integral y oportuno.
Y las visiones desde diferentes perspectivas nos permiten tener pues el mejor tratamiento y la mejor opción para el paciente.
Tenemos la capacidad técnica, operativa, profesional y la infraestructura de poder establecer una atención neurológica de alta calidad.
Are you a dynamic and charismatic personality with a passion for storytelling? Do you have a unique voice that captivates audiences and a talent for bringing stories to life? We are looking for fresh faces who are energetic, engaging, and natural in front of the camera or microphone. If you are passionate about acting or voice work, we want to see what you've got. To register, email producer@channel5belize.com or call 670-6068. back. We are jumping into our second conversation this morning, and as we mentioned, it's all about heart attacks, what causes them, and of course, ways that you can prevent them. We are joined this morning by two specialists and representatives who will be talking to us about the topic mentioned. Joining us this morning is Dr. Mark Bruce, and he is a specialist in emergency medicine. Also joining us is Dr. Chen Chi-Lin, who is a cardiologist. Guys, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Now, when I saw the topic on heart attacks, I immediately knew that this would be one that would interest a lot of our viewers, simply because I think we are moving away from the notion of heart attacks being one of those diseases, I'd say, that affects a certain population only. We now see heart attacks affecting young, affecting old. Of course, there are a lot of theories as well about its association. Perhaps we can begin there. Who do we see getting heart attacks?
Do you want to take that, or do you want me to?
You can go ahead.
Anybody. I've seen people that we would think would be very healthy. Mm-hmm. I used to be a doctor for the United States Navy and was assigned to the Marine Corps, and so these guys were always fit, but I've seen young men as young as 23 years old that have had heart attacks. And so there's the spectrum of disease is quite impressive, from old to young. Classically, we would see an old guy that would develop some chest pain, but how heart attacks develop, the symptoms associated with it, who gets it, you really have to be on your game to really to be able to see that, have a high index of suspicion. We certainly know that people that have certain lifestyles and have certain other associated medical problems are more at risk for developing heart disease and having heart attacks. And that would, one of the main things that we see is obesity. People that are overweight. That has become epidemic in North America, certainly, and we've seen that. Well, I've been coming down to Belize for 25 years, and I've seen the weight of Belizeans increase over that period of time.
Absolutely.
And so that associated with the other diseases associated with obesity, such as diabetes and hypertension. And so all of those things go into developing risk for developing blocked arteries to your heart that cause the heart attack.
I want us to quickly look at the scientific cause of a heart attack. What takes place when a heart attack is actively happening?
So usually we have the coronary arteries that's outside the heart. They usually have it's the left system, the right system, and usually they start building up plaques. So over time, as the plaques build up, people start having something called a stable angina or chest pain that they get off and on, and later on that plaque just ruptured and it forms a blood clot, and that's when the heart attack began.
What are the symptoms of someone who's experiencing heart attack?
So like most of the time,
if I were in a room with someone and then something happens, how do I know that perhaps that person is going through cardiac arrest?
So most of the time they have like something called a premonitions, like you see final destination that you can see things.
Oh, really?
So they usually, day before or 2 days before, they usually will have small things, like they would realize that they can't walk 2 steps anymore. You get a little bit chest uncomfortable. But they think that it's gastric pain. They say, no, this is just something very mild. Then on the day of the heart attack, they will start feeling, they will start this chest discomfort, tightness, start sweating, nausea, vomiting. Some would say that the chest, the tightness will go to the neck, to the left arm, hard to breathe. Those are the main symptoms that when they are having an actual heart attack, that's what they will feel.
Doctor, to me, that sounds like a panic attack. What would you say are the definitive differences between both of them? Because it could really mirror something like anxiety too, could it not?
Yeah, so usually it won't go away. Panic attacks, it comes 5 minutes, maybe a minute or so, it go away. You calm them down, it go away. This will just keep climbing and climbing until you can't handle it more and the patient eventually faints.
So let's talk about the emergency response to someone who's experiencing a heart attack, what window would you say is required for someone to be able to detect that you're going through a heart attack and be able to get medical attention to you?
Well, we like to see patients earlier rather than later. So when we really encourage patients, if they feel uncomfortable, regardless of their symptoms, that they should come and be checked. From a public health perspective, and I'll be speaking on this at the BMDA on Friday, the A&E is the ultimate safety net for any community. And so it is really, really important to have well-trained providers, both doctors and nurses in the A&Es, to recognize, hey, this person's really sick or this person's badly injured, but in terms of heart disease, is this person really sick? Is there some, what we call organicity, rather than something that's just more anxiety related? But if somebody is feeling symptoms, they should be checked. And even if it turns out not to be a problem, we would much rather see somebody that checks out okay than for somebody to stay home and die.
Yeah.
So the first thing that usually will take place is a triage process. In other words, the person comes in, they state their complaint in the A&E, and the triage nurse will basically, if it's a serious complaint, they will usually get that patient bedded right away. And what I mean by bedded, taken back to a treatment area, and an EKG will be done right away. Because heart muscle is very, very sensitive to a lack of blood supply that's caused by these blocked arteries. And that usually will declare itself really pretty quickly with an EKG. And so we like to have those EKGs done within 5 to 10 minutes and interpreted by the treating doctor within 5 to 10 minutes of when that patient arrives. That's optimal care. And when that shows evidence of a heart attack, then the A&E physician would contact Dr. Lin, and he would basically get that patient to where they can get the definitive care. Now, there's some other testing that can go along with that, some blood testing that's really important. The stabilization process involves starting an intravenous line, administering many times oxygen, or administering some medications that all help to kind of mitigate a lot of the symptoms and the disease process too.
So we have looked at, of course, the causes, what takes place when a heart attack is happening. What are things that we can look at? What are things that we can look for on the outside if we think someone might be under the attack of a heart attack? Is there anything that we can do to prevent this, though?
Well, the short answer is yes. And that's the value of developing a systems-based approach to emergency care throughout a community. And so it starts really with bystander response. As a bystander at home, or if you're at work, you see somebody that looks like they're uncomfortable, you talk to them, you recognize, or if they start to pass out, you recognize that, you call for help, and you start CPR if needed. If there's no pulse, you go ahead and do that. Those are the things that really optimize a patient's recovery and survival from a heart attack.
Are there any lifestyle changes that we can do on our own as well to help reduce the chances of a heart attack?
So obviously, we usually treat the underlying factors that contribute to the heart attack. The most common, like Dr. Bruce mentioned, is the diabetes, hypertension, obesity, the high cholesterol. So a general check, if you're diabetic, you want to try to get that diabetes under control. Every factor matters, meaning that if you're like 1% over the goal, meaning you want to get that down to try to prevent a heart attack. The pressure-wise, you want to prevent any surges, have a better control. Daily-wise, you can monitor yourself. Cholesterol-wise, you always want to get to a goal. And knowing that, knowing that also genetic factor is a consideration also. If you have high family history of heart disease, that your uncle, your dad, your brother, everyone has a heart attack, so you know you're automatically at a risk, and you should change that course for yourself. No? Exercise is part of an important routine also. And I don't mean exercise, I get this a lot. I don't mean exercise like, I come to work, I walk every day, and I walk to work, for example. That's most people would say, but that's not exercise. You're walking, you're under a lot of stress. You're coming, you're seeing if you're on time, you haven't had breakfast. That's not exercise. So you want to have a very good exercise routine. Consists of aerobic exercise and resistance exercise. So you want to every day take a time in the evening, half an hour, and do these type of exercises.
What are the physical effects of a heart attack? And considering the fact that the recovery time for persons vary, I presume, what is that process like in terms of the effect of it and being able to perhaps work through that and recuperate?
I think that a lot of that is dependent on how promptly somebody gets treated and the extent of the injury that's sustained. Many people basically come out of a heart attack recognizing and getting their life in order in terms of their physical conditioning, healthier than what they were when they went into it. But there's other people that they wait too late, they require extensive resuscitation, that are disabled for life, that they have problems at that point with developing heart failure, where they can't do as much as they used to be able to do, and really become cardiac cripples. And this is, I'm sure, Dr. Lynn sees a lot of this too.
So it all depends on, like Dr. Blue said, the timing of the treatment and if they get the proper treatment and the territory that was affected. No? Like I mentioned a while ago, is it the left or the right, which artery is affected? That would determine most of the time the outcome of the patient. If I know the affected artery is the main artery, I know in the future he might have some disabilities, shortness of breath, tiredness, that would never recover.
Is there any work being done within the first responders side of Belize, as well as cardiology, that can see further information being shared between you representatives and the work that you do involving heart and heart diseases?
Great question, and I'm really pleased to be part of the matter of fact, I'm the director of the Strengthening Emergency Care in Belize program. And that is basically developing a systems-based approach, not just in Belize City, but throughout Belize, so that every provider in an A&E in the district facilities, at KHMH, at any of the private facilities, are trained in emergency care. And it's, like I say, it's not just a doctor training program, although we are training doctors, but it's anybody, any provider, the nurses there. But BERT has a very active training program. Matter of fact, today and tomorrow they'll be doing advanced cardiac life support courses that are basically owned by the American Heart Association, and training how to recognize, how to resuscitate, how to provide that initial treatment for an acute coronary syndrome, a heart attack. So BERT is a real excellent resource for basically doing that training for both healthcare professionals, but also people that work in the tourism industry, and basic life support. Again, the whole concept of a systems-based approach optimizes outcome because it starts with that bystander calling for help, recognizing there's a problem, calling for help. Those first responders responding to that call, knowing what their role is, knowing how to treat, and then getting them where they can get the definitive care in the A&E and in Dr. Lynn's care, cath lab, and that type of definitive treatment.
I love that you pointed out that this information being shared is not only important for first responders, like persons working in BERT, but also other persons like bystanders. And you pointed a really important part of that in including the tourism industry in that. Oftentimes we have tour guides interacting with persons, doing several forms of activities, and I mean, God forbid there is something that leads to an incident like that, and this tour guide does not know how to provide that aid. How will we be seeing these persons involved in this training?
Well, they're pretty well advertised and actively recruited to take these courses because they're very, very valuable. I have an anecdote of my own. I was with my family climbing on one of the ruins, and there was a very large, obese a man from Canada that was climbing kind of ahead of us, and he was sweating profusely. And my wife is a physician too, and so we were thinking, okay, if he's at the top and has a cardiac arrest, what do we do? And it's like, in that circumstance, there's not a whole lot that you can do. You kind of have to, if you have risk, you need to kind of be aware of your risk and take those appropriate. Don't do high risk behavior that would put you at jeopardy for having a bad outcome.
Wow.
My final question for both of you doctors has to do with what you alluded to initially with your presentation later this week at the BMDA. Can you speak to us about that in terms of the particular activity and your participation in it?
Yeah, I would love to. The Strengthening Emergency Care in Belize program had its genesis from a Ministry of Health and Wellness study back in 2007 and 2008, where they looked at the budgetary effect of RTAs. And they found at that time that 37% of their entire budget was basically being paid out for the direct and indirect cost of RTAs. And this is, there's a lot of other problems here that need attention. At that time, malaria was a problem, dengue, HIV, all of these other issues, infant mortality, maternal health. And so that got the attention, and we were asked, I had become good friends with some of the medical leadership here and was asked to help with this issue in terms of really getting the training that was needed in the A&E and having emergency specialists that knew this specialty, because it didn't exist. There was a variety of specialists that worked, general medical officers that were providing the care in the A&Es. And so we started that program after a dialogue and signing a memo of understanding between Ministry of Health, KHMH, and also the Medical College of Wisconsin, and started that active training in 2014. And it's been ongoing. Obviously, we had to pause during the pandemic. We kind of, I rewrote the curriculum during the pandemic to kind of make it just like an emergency medicine residency program in North America. And so we are now almost finished with our second cohort of doctors, and we'll be starting our third cohort of doctors in a few weeks.
Wonderful. Well, gentlemen, this has been a great conversation, very informative, and I'm hoping that our viewers were tuning in and listening keenly. As we wrap up this conversation, I'll ask if you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with us.
If you have anything that you think may be related to your heart, you should get it checked out. And Dr. Lin can, I think, validate that too.
Yeah, I think, well, don't take any chest pain lightly, no?
Yes.
Most of the time, it's something else.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we are going to take another quick break, and when we come back, it's all about Toyota in Belize.
Creativity meets business. Step inside our world of innovative visual solutions. From captivating graphic design to expansive wide format productions, our services are tailored to bring your vision to life. Experience the impact of our high-quality signage and billboards, embroidery, promotional items, and professional paper printing, all designed to elevate your brand's presence. Every project reflects our commitment to creativity, quality, and client satisfaction. At McNabb Visual Strategies, we transform ideas into visual realities. Get in touch today.
My name is Claire Aranda. I am 11 years old and I go to Hattieville Government School. I think it was the evening. My mom got out of her room and she shouted that I had won the essay competition. I felt excited that my school got a prize because my school needs it. I remember one morning waking up to the news that my cousin was in an accident. It was an uncertain and fearful situation until we learned that she was going to be okay. Unfortunately, not every family member is as lucky as we were. Many families lose loved ones to traffic accidents, and I cannot help but wonder how many accidents can be avoided if only people would keep their eyes on the road and mind on the drive. We are all humans, so what the driver misses, another passenger in the vehicle may catch just in time to save lives.
With Cleanne winning this competition, not only shows that Cleanne is a brilliant student, it also shows that the quality of education provided here at Hattieville Government School is exceptional. A big thank you to BEL. The donation will be used to refurbish the computer lab. I believe it will enhance their learning capabilities, and it will also better equip them for this technological world that we're now living in. Thank you to BEL. Keep up the good work and encouraging students to read more, write more, and participate in competition. And also to note that BEL does not only provide electricity, but that they also engage the communities in a lot of positive ways.
My name is Shyne Vega. El Patio Grill has been using Belize Bank for over 25 years. We only use Belize Bank at our restaurant. That's why we were able to win this trip to Europe. I had never been to Europe. We found out it was Madrid and we were excited and we went to this football match. The teams reached before the game and everybody was just outside, you know. You can't explain, the noise just roared like 3 blocks down the street, but when you got in there and you saw 70,000 people in there, that was amazing. I couldn't believe it was happening. I had to pinch myself to make sure it was real, you know, because it's a one-in-a-lifetime experience, I'd say. My lucky plus one was my son. He's 18 years old, so he was really excited and he enjoyed it as well. He said it's his best trip ever, so it's a priceless experience that we got. Belize Bank has always been there for me. Whatever transactions or whatever I need to do, they're always there for me. I would recommend everybody to use Belize Bank. It's the oldest bank in our country and they continue to do their best.
Are you a dynamic and charismatic personality with a passion for storytelling? Do you have a unique voice that captivates audiences and a talent for bringing stories to life? We are looking for fresh faces who are energetic, engaging, and natural in front of the camera or microphone. If you are passionate about acting or voice work, we want to see what you've got. To register, email producer@channel5belize.com or call 670-6068.
And welcome back. Joining us for our third conversation this morning is the operations manager at Belize Diesel and Equipment. He is Ryan Marin. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr.
Hi,
Marin.
good morning. Morning. Thanks for having me.
You're here to talk to us about all things Toyota. Let's talk first of all about the brand and how long Belize Diesel has been an agent of this particular brand.
Right, so actually the first sale of a Toyota Land Cruiser first happened in 1958 in Belize. And this was at a time where Toyota was exploring the region for new dealers in the US and all down through Central America. They were looking, and Belize was one of them. Before Belize was actually even an independent country, Toyota has set up shop here as a franchise, and they saw the potential in our market as well as many other markets. And so the relationship between Belize and Toyota goes way back.
It has come to the point where Toyota is one of the leading brands in automobile manufacturing in this world, actually.
Yes.
Right? But in Belize, it's one of the prominent brands in terms of pickup trucks and other vehicles, heavy-duty vehicles, and what have you. Talk to us about Belize Diesel's role in this transition and perhaps being able to market the brand locally.
Right. So myself and the staff at Belize Diesel are really proud of the work that we do, because we're in in government fleets, in industry fleets, and when I say industry, I mean, you know, banana, sugar, you know, all these crucial industries in Belize, and you know, we help the wheels turn for the people that do their work there, and so we have a tremendous amount of you know, being proud in what we do, because we feel that Toyota is monumental in getting these things done for everyday people, for people who have important jobs. I'd go as far as to say that Toyota is the #1 brand to get that done, because as Belize Diesel, we're a single brand, as opposed to some of the other dealers in Belize. We only represent Toyota. And when we look at the sales figures, we look at, well, Toyota as a whole, you know, sells Hilux, sells Land Cruisers, sells these things, but when we look at the fleets of all these major industries, they're running almost only Toyota. And so we feel that it is an important brand, not only to everyday people who look at, okay, let's buy a vehicle to get to work and take the kids to school, but also to move industries forward, you know.
What do you think it is about this brand that has been so long lasting? I mean, you just spoke about how long Toyota has been here in Belize, but as Isani alluded to, this is a brand that has the same level of representation worldwide. What is it about it when it's compared to other brands?
Hands down, it has to be quality. It's all about quality. The Japanese people tend to be very quality conscious. Almost everything that's like a top brand or a top quality product comes from Japan. I mean, there's so many other brands like Sony, JVC, all these different brands coming out of Japan, Canon, Nikon, you know, that you use in your studio here.
Yes.
And so it represents quality. And the funny thing is that we mentioned that, you know, Toyota is a top car brand, the top car brand, and that wasn't the goal. The goal was just to make quality, reliable vehicles that last a long time, and it turns out that that's what everybody wants too.
Yeah.
You know,
what makes it hold its value? Because I was watching a documentary perhaps a few weeks ago where they were looking at vehicle owners who purchased various models in the Toyota family. For instance, the Tacoma holds a certain value, and it's one of the popular vehicles right now to own based on that. What makes it hold on to this particular value?
Well, it's the expected lifespan of the vehicle, right? Because if you buy a vehicle and you say, okay, well, this is going to last me 10 years, well, by the time you, let's say, want to change it at year 5, you know, the next buyer is only going to have a perceived value of, oh, well, you know, half its life is already gone. But at Toyota, you know, somebody can drive it for 10 years, but the next buyer is going to say, well, you know, this vehicle is good for another 15 years. So the perceived, like the residual value is a lot higher because the expected life of the vehicle is a lot higher. And you mentioned about the Tacoma and other models that are not officially introduced here. And I wanted to touch on that because it's really important that people understand what we do as an official dealer for Toyota is that we have a model lineup, and people always come to the dealer and say, oh, you know, how come you don't have this model or that model that might be available in other markets like the US, which is our main source of buying vehicles, right? We have the Hilux, we have the Prado, we have you know, different models, and it's because when we do our homework at the dealer, we have to collect fuel samples, we have to do technical reports on failures, and so the models that we get are actually designed for Belize. If you look up in our system, in our Toyota system, the VIN numbers of different, they'll tell you, okay, this one's for the US, this one's for this country, and then you'll actually see Belize spec. And that takes into consideration, you know, you go to Puma or Shell or Uno, and the fuel that they have there, they've taken that into consideration. And the funny thing is that when they send us the request, they look at all the different gas stations, and please go to, you know, Shell on Central American Boulevard, and and take that sample, and so that's the level of detail that they go to ensure that it lasts 20 years or 25 years, which we have so many vehicles that come to our shop with 800,000 kilometers, and it's nothing. The vehicle still starts and drives like day one, and it's just amazing to see.
And perhaps that's also one of the value of purchasing a Toyota vehicle from Belize Diesel, because of that assurance that comes with it. I want to talk a bit more about that, the experience you get when doing business with you guys and purchasing these Toyota vehicles. What is that process like from start to finish?
Well, first off, people tend to want to realize, okay, well, what's driving me to buy a new vehicle versus a used vehicle? It's, save some money. And again, to go back to that, these vehicles are designed for Belize. And then also the warranty. We have a 5-year, 100,000 kilometer warranty, meaning that you're assured that if you get into an accident, the airbags, the safety systems are going to work. If you have a failure, an engine failure, it doesn't even have to be that serious. It could be a radio stop working. You bring it to the dealer, we replace it, you're off on the road again. And so this is like the main assurance that, okay, somebody comes in, gets a new vehicle, they're assured that they're not going to have any problems. The maintenance cost is going to be trackable, meaning you buy a used vehicle, you don't know what happened to that car. Maybe you bought it a month later, you have to change an expensive part that you weren't planning on. You don't have that kind of guesswork with buying a new vehicle. And so that's one of the main reasons that people buy a new vehicle, and one of the main reasons that it lasts so long too, because you can plan out your entire ownership cost and life cycle.
Do you guys facilitate perhaps the aftermarket aspect of this all?
So in aftermarket, I'm imagining that you're talking about like spare parts. So we always have a discussion with the parts and service staff. We always encourage people to keep their Toyota a Toyota. The moment that you start putting on parts that were not necessarily designed for that vehicle, a lot of the aftermarket they copy, right? Reverse engineer the parts. And so it's not exactly, things don't fit exactly, or they don't work exactly, or they don't last as long. So we always encourage people to go with the genuine parts, which was designed for the vehicle. It's the same part that you bought from the factory. Sometimes you have people that, 20 years the car's been on the road, and they come in and say, oh, I don't want to spend that much. But you realize that that part has been on the vehicle for 20 years. So why not continue buying that genuine quality to keep your car reliable? And it's the entire basis of the brand to ensure reliability on the road.
One of the things, or one of the themes that I think I hear from this conversation is, one, the investment that comes with purchasing a Toyota, but also the investment in doing so with Belize Diesel, having that assurance of warranty, of not having to worry about parts and mechanic work. For persons who might be tuning in and wondering, what does a budget, or what kind of budget would I need to have to purchase a Toyota? Perhaps from the lower end up to the highest. What would you say that is?
Right. So, Toyota is a premium brand. Quality does come with a cost. But we're not like a German brand, or, something that's extremely expensive. We have brand new cars with warranty starting at $72,000 with all your taxes, out the door price. Now we do have more luxury cars that go all the way into the 6 figures, but we do have something for everybody. It's not just expensive, high quality cars. We do have high quality economic choices.
Yes.
And if you look at a $72,000 price tag, a lot of the used cars coming out of the US have higher price tags than that. So the customer just really has to be informed as to where they want to invest their money, because a car is a big investment. Whether you say, okay, well, I'm going to save money and buy a $50,000 car, that's still a lot of money. That's not everyday money.
Is the second largest investment other than owning a house.
Right.
Right? So you really have to put some thought and some consideration into what you're investing in.
Right.
And I think for the average Belizean, they're thinking, okay, well, I only have a certain amount of money. It may not necessarily equate to being able to buy a $72,000 vehicle,
Yeah.
but they're looking at their budget. In terms of budget consciousness, what would you say would be the best route to take, even if you were looking at perhaps financing a vehicle or something?
Well, in terms of financing, we always encourage people to work with their financial institution and see what the best terms that you will get. And I know for the everyday buyer, you know, it might be daunting to go and open up that conversation, but you know, that's their business, and you shouldn't be afraid to go and just have a discussion to see where, because we have a lot of people who might feel that, you know, financing is impossible for them, but when they go and have that conversation, they find out that, you know what, the banks are more willing to finance a Toyota because of the long warranty, because of the expected life.
Yeah.
And so you find that the banks are willing to work with you and have that relationship with you because they're getting a quality product as opposed to something that, you know, might have come out of a flood or an accident, and you don't know what the life is going to be or the level of investment that is required to keep that vehicle on the road in the coming years. And so, like I said in the beginning, a new vehicle, you can plan out the cost of owning that vehicle a lot better.
Wonderful. Well, for persons who might have been convinced to march over to Belize Diesel and purchase their first Toyota from you guys, how can they do so?
Well, so we have two locations, one in Belize City and one in Belmopan. You know, on the main road, Slaughterhouse and Freetown Road in Belize City, and on the Hummingbird Highway in Belmopan. We have a lot of new models coming in. We have hybrids, which I'm very excited to introduce as an officially introduced model to the country. The first, as I know, of an officially introduced hybrid gas electric vehicle. And then we also have the new Hilux Gazoo racing model, which is a high performance version of the truck based on the Dakar Rally. We have the new Toyota Raze, which is the $72,000 entry-level model. So we do have a lot of different models that we're venturing into this year and next year. That's a change from the usual Hilux, Prado, Land Cruiser lineup. So we do believe that now we have a model for everybody, even yourself.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for stopping in and sharing with us this information. We appreciate it, and we wish you guys all the best.
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right. We are going to take our final break, and when we come back, the conversation switches into celebrating Diabetes Awareness Month.
Life has taught us that certain pleasures are best enjoyed slowly. Perhaps the slow pleasure worth enjoying the most is life itself. Slow down, Belize, and enjoy your life longer.
Lain ka ba Elmer Shua? Ay join jik ahelak sa Kopal Tree Lodge. Keronik ahelan ay lain sa Kopal, kakui bartending kakui an keronik mano lain. Lain ni usara Belize Bank mobile app. Hanak na usara uta ana ATM, utin card. Araw kay balbas changkiron sa usara ut kolore na notification chira phone na mensahas. Araw ta kin kolore tak kala harup chitumin sa usara. Ut araw ta naw nak sa chabilo wang gatumin.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Full-Tech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what you've been waiting for. In this corner, we have the masters of limitless power and unbeatable connections, pioneers of 4G LTE in Belize. It's the undefeated champion, Smart. And in the other corner, struggling to keep up, it's the other guy. Fight! Tired of getting blow after blow from a plan with the other guys? It's time to tap out and join the winning postpaid plan provider. Smart's postpaid plans are a total knockout to the competition, and they have once again powered up their postpaid plans. Sign up for one of Smart's boosted postpaid power plans today and experience the victory of superior service. Smart, bringing people together.
Are you a dynamic and charismatic personality with a passion for storytelling? Do you have a unique voice that captivates audiences and a talent for bringing stories to life? We are looking for fresh faces who are energetic, engaging, and natural in front of the camera or microphone. If you are passionate about acting or voice work, we want to see what you've got. To register, email producer@channel5belize.com or call 670-6068.
My name is Shyne Vega. El Patio Grill has been using Belize Bank for over 25 years. We only use Belize Bank at our restaurant. That's why we were able to win this trip to Europe. I had never been to Europe. We found out it was Madrid and we were excited and we went to this football match. The teams reached before the game and everybody was just outside, you know. You can't explain, the noise just roared like 3 blocks down the street, but when you got in there and you saw 70,000 people in there, that was amazing. I couldn't believe it was happening. I had to pinch myself to make sure it was real, you know, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, I'd say. My lucky plus one was my son. He's 18 years old, so he was really excited and he enjoyed it as well. He said it's his best trip ever, so it's a priceless experience that we got. Belize Bank has always been there for me. Whatever transactions or whatever I need to do, they're always there for me. I would recommend everybody to use Belize Bank. It's the oldest bank in our country and they continue to do their best.
Back. We are having our final conversation this morning, and as we mentioned, it's all about the awareness of diabetes. We have here with us representatives from the Belize Diabetes Association. Joining us is Dr. Gilroy Middleton Jr., and he is the Public Relations Officer. Also with us is Ms. Sharon Fraser, and she is the Legal Advisor. And also joining us is Monica Stewart, Program Advisor and Supporter of the Belize Diabetes Association. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Good morning and welcome. I always look forward to having the conversation on diabetes because we know it as one of those debilitating NDCs and also what they call a silent killer, yeah? It's hard to identify a family or a household that has not been impacted one way or another, either by loved one or just someone that they know. that has been impacted with diabetes. Of course, we also know the association as being very active in the work that it does, and we often see you guys here whenever there's the month of awareness on diabetes. But let's talk, let's get an overview of what the association is doing outside of this awareness month.
Well, to start off, we've been around for some time. We are that support group for persons living with diabetes. And just to let the public know, it's not only diabetics who are part of this association. We have supporters. Monica, for example, is not a diabetic, but she's there along with others to support those of us who are living with the condition. It's always important to get people to learn about the disease, to learn about how to support persons who have the disease. So if there are persons out there who have family members who are living with diabetes, I must tell you, and I guess my family could attest to the fact that diabetics are stubborn people. So that, remember, it also has to do with your lifestyle. So it means changing habits. It means while some of us might develop the condition based on how we live, there are others who are predisposed based on family history. In my case, while I had family history, the first time I developed diabetes was gestational diabetes, so during pregnancy. While in most cases it goes away once you've had the baby, in other cases it remains. So, but if I knew what I knew then, I guess my lifestyle would have been different. Despite the fact that my mother had diabetes, her mother, my father's mother, so I was destined, you can say.
Predisposed on both ends.
Predisposed on both ends. But the association is there to lend that support. Our main goal is to educate and sensitize the general public of diabetes. The fact that we're there as a support group. Sometimes it's hard living as a diabetic when persons are first diagnosed. They don't know what to do, who to talk to, what to eat, and they sometimes lead them into depressions. So that if they go to a support group and they're able to hear the stories of how people are living with it, they actually function better. I could remember there were occasions in which I'm thinking, boy, I can't get my sugar under 120. And then I go to the meeting and hear people talk about their sugar is 200, 300. And I'm saying, what am I complaining about? I just need to. So it gives you that support. It gives you that sense of, okay, I'm not in this alone. We also provide support for type 1 diabetics, which are those juvenile persons who are diagnosed from birth.
I was going to ask, what's the difference between type 1 and type 2? Because both you and Mr. Middleton have type 2, yes?
Yes. So type 1 are those persons who are born, so from birth to 24, 25. The experts are looking at whether or not 25 is the cutoff time. At a recent conference that I went, they were looking at persons, somebody who was 30-something, and diagnosing that person with type 1. No, that was pretty strange to me, because from the time I've been in this movement, I've been hearing 24, 25 as type 1. But the world is developing, their research is being done. I learned that we concentrate on 3 types of diabetics. Type 1, type 2, gestational. I learned that there are many subgroups to type 2, for example. So there are many other types of diabetics, and it will determine how you treat these people or us.
I'll put this out there, right? And it's an observation. I can't support it with any hard evidence, so it's anecdotal at best, right? So diabetes, in a sense, that's for everybody. But it would appear to be that more black people suffer from diabetes than perhaps any other group.
That is not true,
It's not true? Okay.
Because I will tell you, the country with the largest population of diabetes is China.
Wow.
Oh.
Okay.
So
we're learning.
Forget about the
That
black
is
people,
interesting.
right? And next you have India. So that at these conferences we go, you see the varied ethnicities of persons who are suffering from diabetes. It's not confined to black people. Maybe we are seeing that here because we are, in terms of economic means, are at the lowest, so we don't eat the way that we should. So you are seeing that from your perspective, but when you're exposed to the bigger picture, you realize it's not just a black people thing. It's just that, like I tell people, you have a disease like sickle cell that people say it's a black people thing. It's not a black people thing. It's just that because of where we are, you are going based on what you see. Right? But the largest country with the largest population of diabetics are seen in China.
One of the things that I'd also like for us to explain, perhaps in the best that you guys can, because I know that you're no doctors, but what is the scientific process of how diabetes occurs, where glucose and insulin is concerned?
It has to do with your pancreas. Let me take that question as the more senior person in this group. It has to do with the insulin that is produced by your pancreas. You have persons who are born with defective pancreas, so hence type 1. And then you have those of us who over time stress, your lifestyle, you're eating badly, your whatever, it puts that strain on your pancreas and it produces less insulin. The insulin is that which is needed to convert whatever sugar that comes into your body, whether it's direct sugar or indirect sugar. So that in fact you eat flour and flour is converted to sugar. You eat rice, it is converted to sugar. You eat an apple and that's sugar. And you need sugar. Sugar is what you need to perform all the functions.
To give you energy.
Blinking your eye, talking to me, raising your hand. You need the energy. Now, if your pancreas is not doing the conversion, it then means you get slower, you get lethargic.
Is that insulin resistance? Is that what they call that?
Well, yes, it is a form of insulin resistance because your pancreas is not working the way it should. Right? It's slower. Like I can't tell you my pancreas is not working. It's just not working optimal the way it should. But things like exercise, change of lifestyle, your diet, everything can have an impact as it relates to where you are with that. You understand? And in some cases, they're now telling us, and I just learned that with type 2, if you catch it early enough, you do what you need to do, you can even reverse it. The narrative was that you can't reverse diabetes. But that is not what is coming out now from the doctors, the endocrinologists, and all those organizations that are looking at the condition now. So, as I said to you, I recently went to a diabetes congress in Abidjan, and that is what the endocrinologists are there saying. Move away from the fact it cannot be reversed. But there are certain things you have to do, and there are tests that they are now doing in relation to how they can treat it based on those other subsectors of diabetes.
I want to get Dr. Middleton in the conversation. We just saw displaying on the screen some signs and symptoms that would oftentimes be associated with diabetes. As a person that is also diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, perhaps we can share some of that with the viewers, what those symptoms look like.
Okay. Well, you'll have two ends in terms of the spectrum. So in terms of the glucose level, at a high level and then at a low level. In terms of at a high level, you would have constant urination, you would have constant thirst, particularly at the nighttime, and at the lower level, you would have that dizzy feeling off balance. But the major point is that you need to know yourself. you need to keep testing so you know what your spectrum is, as the average glucose levels would relate to age. Higher at a younger age and lower as you proceed in life. So for me, it would be looking more in terms of between 90 and 130 for myself. So I know that, and I know when I'm feeling in a certain way, if I haven't eaten, the glucose level will go down. So I know specifically what to do. So you have to know the facts, and then you have to monitor yourself. And as Ms. Fraser noted, we have the monthly meetings where at the beginning of every meeting, there's a doctor that would present information to us, and then we would have individuals share in terms of what they're going through and in terms of simple, practical, actionable activities that you can do. And in the simplest sense, you have to balance your diet, your sleep, get in some exercise. And a fourth point that most people don't realize, you have to balance your mindset. Think of meditation or relaxing.
Manage your stress.
Yeah, stress actually takes it up.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Now, I wanted to also talk to Monica because, as was mentioned, you do not have diabetes,
No,
but you're here in the capacity of support that is necessary to be given to persons battling diabetes, but also you are a part of the association. Monica, I want to talk about your interest in being a part of this association in the first place.
So my interest first developed, of course, from Ms. Fraser. And I started to attend the monthly meetings and partake in the annual activities that the association would have. And going there daily, I got to understand and learn more about diabetes, because I think some people have a misconception about diabetes, and some people feel like, oh, if it is that you have diabetes, you can't eat no sugar in it at all. You know, so there are a lot of misconceptions, and these monthly meetings do help, and also it allows persons to understand how to manage their diabetes, you know, and also give them the ability to learn how diabetes affects your entire body. And I can say that having going to the meetings, I've understand and learn how diabetes affects the hair right down to the toes.
Wow. So in terms of activities that we can expect from the association in spreading the awareness of diabetes, is there anything in particular that we can look forward to this year?
So, for instance, November is known as the month that the Belize diabetes spreads awareness. And I just want to say that even though November is recognized as the month that they spread awareness, it's done all year round, right? So what we do in the month of November is that we have specific activities that we look forward to. So for instance, this Saturday we're going to have the walk, which is Walk Out Diabetes, and then the week after we have the ride. So this weekend actually starts the month of activities, whereby we start off with the walk, and then we do a church service on the Sunday, and then we do presentations to different and various organizations. And then next week we have a 2-day ride, which would be Corozal on the Saturday, and then Kaya on the Sunday.
To Belize.
Starting off with the walk, where will the walk begin and at what time?
So it would begin at 6 a.m. from Crystal Auto Rental, and then it comes down to IT Vet, right on the main. So it would be a complete straight walk to IT Vet.
Pretty short.
It is.
Yeah, pretty short walk.
So that means we will see you on Islam.
Of course. No, I'm not even joking. This is definitely one that I want to attend. I know they like to pull my leg a lot here on live TV. But aside from that, you mentioned that there will be many other activities that will be held throughout the month. The ride that will be done the week after. Do you have any details on that? How can persons be a part? Do you have to register or pay?
Okay, so persons can follow the Belize Diabetes Association page on Facebook. Most of the activities is posted there, and if it is that persons have any questions, queries, they can also channel that through Facebook. And the office is located at the corner of that's Magazine, Central American and Magani Street. right to the corner, so persons can always visit the office if it is that they have any questions. Now, just to touch on it a little, one of the things that the association tries to focus on as well is to bring the awareness from a young age. So they would be doing some presentations in the primary school and the high schools to promote the awareness as well, because we do have a couple of youths who are battling with diabetes. So it's important that they understand that they have the support at that age as well.
Wonderful. Well, for persons who would like to support, because I think that that is a representation so important, Monica, that you are showing us. How can viewers support even if they don't have diabetes, but they are moved by the cause from the association?
They could come to the office. They could definitely come to the office and partake in the monthly sessions. And in addition to that, whatever activities the office is promoting, as I mentioned, there is a lot of awareness that is done. So, for instance, the association partners with the Kidney Association. There's the
HECOPA, so Ministry of Health. We do a lot of partnership with Ministry of Health. We are the main supporter for persons living with diabetes. And as Monica said, there is a monthly meeting. It's every third Saturday of the month. Normally, the meeting, well, if it's face-to-face, it's at ITVET. We've been doing a lot of online to accommodate persons throughout the country, as opposed to just those living in Belize City. As far as the ride, I know you had asked for details. Yes, they can come and register. They have to register. In the past, it has been one of our largest fundraisers. We don't get any subvention from government. So to support our activity, to support our outreach, is based on these rides. The ride, as I said, used to be the largest fundraiser. We do also offer monitors and strips for sale to the public. That helps with our outreach.
At economic prices.
An economic price. So we have a monitor and we provide the necessary strips for it. I know a lot of times people get their relative to send them monitors to test their sugar, but they don't have the strips. Or they have to source the strips from abroad. We have that, and we've been supplying that not just only to persons living with the disease, but even to certain health centers as well. So that for that ride, and I just wanted to go back to the ride, because the more, it's not for professional riders. I will tell you, there have been many of these rides that I myself have partaken. I can't right now, but I've done many rides, and I remember the very first ride, my goal was to ride from Corozal to Orange Walk, at least to that. And I was there and I'm saying, oh God, I can't do this.
It's impossible.
At the end of the day, I had always traveled on that road and never realized it had 5 hills. Think about Corozal to Orange Walk. Think about if you are thinking any hill, there are 5 on a bicycle.
And if you're not a cyclist, you have to climb all 5.
Exactly. And no, but the thing is, all I saw when I went on the road was that hill where the police station is in entering Orange Walk. Only that I saw. I didn't see the other ones in between that are slow and gradual, but I did it. I also rode from Cayo, from Santa Elena to Belmopan, and think about all those hills, people.
Yes.
Watch me.
No, that one we expect.
But I did it. I did it. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's not a race. It is a ride. It is a fun. Let me tell you, there is nothing feels better than you are doing something and you have accomplished something, especially if you haven't done it before. I remember when in fact we took Monica and she decided to ride, and I have to thank the professional riders because they help. When it is I was tired at some point, there is this professional rider, Patrick Bennett, let me say his name. And he pushed me along. Just, Miss Mishar, you know, do nothing. You just steady the bike and he pushed.
It's an experience you won't get any other.
Experience, right. But also, I wanted to say, beside all of that, all of this is leading up to the 14th of November, which is World Diabetes Day. There will be a health fair at Battlefield Park, where we partner with other persons in this area and give information, sensitize the public on what is happening with diabetes, how they can join, whatever questions, and we are doing testing then. It's through these testings we have discovered persons who are walking around with 300, 400
and probably didn't
even know. That is through these activities we have come to sensitize persons that they're living with the conditions that they didn't know, and it's tearing their inside out. It is a silent killer. It silently affects you from your hair to your toe.
Guys, it's always a pleasure to have each of you here. Of course, we stand with you in sharing through awareness in our own platforms. We recognize the importance of doing that, so we always are thankful when we have your presence here. And of course, we wish you guys all the best in the activities set to take place next month. You'll be seeing either myself or and Isani,
both of you.
but I'll definitely be there. Yeah. But I definitely want to.
It's a short walk one Saturday. You take out your Saturday and decide, you know what, I'll do this. There must be somebody in your family that you can say,
It's hard
I'm
to not
walking
find
for.
one. Yeah.
If not for yourself, somebody. Because that is what I did initially. When I rode, even though I was diabetic then, I rode for my mom who had died from diabetes. So that was my goal. You pick a goal, you do it, and I felt top of the world. Nobody could explain that feeling. But I want you to have 2 of our pins.
Ooh. Thank
one for you, one for Isani, so that
wonderful.
you can wear it for the whole month of November.
And I will. Thank you very much, guys.
you.
And we wish you all the best.
Thank you too.
All right, and that does it. We are wrapping up the show, and we want to say a huge thank you to all of our guests who joined us this morning. It is October 29th, and if you're celebrating a birthday today, happy birthday to you. And if you'd like to give a birthday shout out, or if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. You can also catch us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ, as well as Instagram for behind the scenes contents at OYE Belize. Thank you so much for joining us, and please do us a favor and join us again tomorrow when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
And your hearts open.
Have a wonderful Tuesday.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by Smart, bringing people together, and the Belize Bank, our country, your bank.